Hi there again, guys and gals. Very excited today. The new SJCam SJ9 strike has just arrived. It was well wrapped up in bubble wrap, but by the time it's been from Hong Kong to Taiwan to Alaska to Germany to the north of England and to the south through various couriers and being thrown around, this is how the camera's rattling around in the box. This way of packaging cameras is quite common now, but I wish they'd find another way of doing it. Anyway, let's get it out of the box and see if it's still working. I must say the first problem is figuring out how to get it out of the box. Oh yes, let's see, that comes out there. Now I can't imagine why that has managed to throw itself out of the clip on its journey, because that is actually very solid in there. But these things do get thrown around like cricket balls when they're being transferred. Okay, so obviously you've got the camera here, which is stuck on a bracket on the top. And lift that up to actually slide it out. Well, let's see what you've got here. You've got the camera on a bracket, which is in a skeleton case. Of course, it doesn't need a waterproof case because it is apparently waterproof. You've got a leaflet here. Let's hope it's in English. Yeah, some instructions in English. That's useful. Lens cleaning cloth, lens cap, some stick-on brackets. A lot of stick-on brackets, in fact. 3 or 4 or 5. With a couple of extra sticky pads to stick them on to whatever you want to put them on, skateboard, helmet, diving stuff, whatever. USB charging cable, which is USB-C, and a couple of SJCam stickers. Right, well, it looks to me like to get this out of the skeleton case, it's just a question of unscrewing it. And they come out like so. So here is the camera. Well, I'm going to have a look at the manual, and then we can take a closer look at the camera, so don't go away. Right, well, I've got it on charge, but there's no indication on it that it's charging. There's no light anywhere. I tell a lie, there is an indication that it's charging inside the little cover that covers up the USB-C socket. Red light, no doubt once the light's gone off, it'll be fully charged. Right, well, the red light's gone off, it's charged, so let's take a closer look. This is the new flagship model from SJCam. Company that's been around a long time and produced some really great cameras. SJ9 Strike. This is their first waterproof camera. Not cheap, over £200, but designed to be a good competitor for the waterproof GoPros because it features 4K with EIS, 4K 60 frames a second, 1080 at 120 frames a second, although the EIS, which in this particular version of camera is called supersmooth, only works up to 4K at 30 frames a second and 1080 at 60 frames a second. It's got wireless charging, although having said that, it didn't work when I tried it with my wireless charger, but I gather there are 3 different protocols of wireless charger. It's got the Sony IMX377 and an umbrella chip, so high spec all round, and it's capable of live streaming, which I often get asked about on my video reviews. So what have we got here? We've got a 170 degree wide angle lens, as far as I can see anyway. Not easy to find specs for it because it's barely on the market yet. On this end you've got a little waterproof cover that covers the USB charging socket. Now I saw on another review that somebody managed to break this. It's not that fragile. You've got a little locking tab here, which is obviously important that it's meant to be closed so that the waterproof gasket is sealing it properly, and of course you've got a little red light there for charging. Now the way I suggest you close it is pull the catch back, push it in, and then slide the catch back across. I mean, they're obviously quite small, not massively heavily constructed, but I think if you do it the way I suggest, in other words, as I just showed you, pull the catch back, and then once you've pressed it in so the seal's making good contact, then slide the catch back across. I think they should last okay doing that. And once it's pushed in, you need to be sure that that clip is actually pushed that way and locking. In the base you've got a 1/4 inch tripod mount screw there. There's a sticker there that's pointing out how important it is to have that closed properly. Again, you've got a little tiny locking tab there which needs to go this way to open the battery cover. 1300 milliamp battery. You can get additional batteries and you can get an external charger for that. I'm using a 64 gig class 10 U3 Samsung Evo Plus, and the card goes in, logo towards the battery. One of the quick start leaflets you get inside actually recommends various cards here, 76 Pro and so on. That is important if you want to record 4K, 2.7K, etc. Most problems I've seen people report with cameras, 90% is down to using poor cards. So to close that, obviously you've got to make sure you keep these seals clean, but that needs to go down, firmly be pushed in so that the clip is back there and keeping it closed. So that's all you've got on the case to mention. Oh, and of course on the top there you've got power and shutter. It's a 3-second press to turn it on. As you can see, you've got a lovely screen on the back here, touch screen. You've also got a screen on the front here which is telling you recording time, what res you're in, the time, size of the card and battery level. Blue light there which flashes. Oh, I've just touched the screen. That's the trouble with touch screens. Okay, I've gone into playback there, accidentally touching the screen. Good to see a blue light on the front. That flashes when you're recording, so that if it's on a helmet or something, all you need to do is look in a mirror and you can see whether it's recording. Touchscreen on the back, really nice user interface. If you look in one of the quick start guides, you can download the full manual, which really goes into great detail about what all the functions are. And so I'm only going to give a kind of fairly brief look at the operation of it, because there's just way too much in the menus to go into. But looking at the screen here, well, first off, press the shutter. You can see recording, countdown, and I'm in 1080, 60 frames a second. Little shaky hand there shows that I've got EIS on, which in the case of this camera is called super smooth. It's going to be interesting to see when I test it against another camera just how well the super smooth works. EIS is on, battery level, mic is on. That's one settings menu, that's another settings menu, that's another settings menu, and that's playback. But as you can see, flashing away there, 33 seconds, it's recording. Blue light on the front shows you it's recording. Recording countdown on the front too, so you're in no doubt you're recording. Press again and it stops. Incidentally, if you've got a screensaver on, the screen will die. You have to press that twice when you want to stop it recording, because the first one just revives it, the second one actually stops it recording. And as you can see there, one touch on the screen will turn off screen information. Now, easiest thing to do with touchscreens is to experiment a bit, swipe it and touch various things and see what happens. So swipe down, you've got a menu here, lock screen, turn the Wi-Fi on and off for the Wi-Fi app. It's got FPV capability. You can get an accessory lead which will plug from the camera into your transmitter. And bearing in mind this rattled around in a box coming from China for 3 days and survived well, I think it'd be pretty durable on a drone. So FPV, you can get optional remote control from SJCam, so that obviously turns on and pairs the remote. Swipe it back up, get rid of that. Now I'll start from the right here. If I touch that settings menu, I've got one menu here that goes through format, auto power on and off, front display on or off, indicator lights, keypad down, rotate, brightness, and so on. It's all listed in the full manual, so I can't explain everything here. Frequency and so on, and firmware version. Little arrow takes you back out of that. Now I'm in video at the moment, 1080-60. If I touch that settings menu, I've got another menu relating to video and video quality, exposure value, white balance. I should say just leave things at default. Default is 4K with EIS on, I think at the moment. That'll work fine. If you're not interested in this kind of stuff, then just leave it as it is. Power on record, metering mode. I do like to change metering mode from spot to, can you see the way that's working? You actually scroll the things up and down. I prefer average to spot. So that's easy enough to change. Change that to average. Gyro stabilization on or off. Just a question of sliding the position of that. I'll point out at this point, and it actually mentions it there, that as far as gyro stabilization goes, or EIS, electronic image stabilization, or super smooth, it's not supported if you use the H.265 codec. Default is 264, and that's the one I usually use anyway. It doesn't actually work in 1080 at 120 frames a second. It only works up to 60 frames a second. Likewise in 4K, it only works up to 30 frames a second. It doesn't work at 60. But all the same, that's very good. And it does have 4K at 60 frames a second, which is unusual really, which you'll only find in much higher price cameras. So that's that settings menu. Now video there, you see we've gone into a different kind of menu set up here. You've got little icons. Video, video lapse, slow motion, photo, photo lapse, burst mode. Scroll it up, video plus photo, which is, it'll take a photo while you're recording video. Sorry if I have to race through this, there is just so much to do. Plus you've got live streaming there, which I couldn't test because I didn't actually want to start broadcasting video of nothing to YouTube or Facebook. But you've got all those there. Let's say I want to change to photo. Touch photo, I'm in it. Right, click. There was a little click there, I don't know if you heard it. Alternative, if you want to change from photo to video, you can just swipe across that way and you see the icons change there from a video camera to still camera and so on. So that's easy enough. And of course when I'm in camera mode, it's telling me that I'm in 12 megapixel, 4000 by 3000. And of course if you touch the settings menu, then come back out of that, if you touch that settings menu, then you've got a completely different menu for photo settings. Photo sharpness, shutter speed, timestamp, on or off. As I say, way too much to actually go through. So it's saying there 1080-60. If I touch that, I'm now into changing resolutions. At the moment 1080-60. If I want to go into 1080-30, 1080-120, scroll it up and down. Or of course if I want to go into 4K, 4K 30, 4K 50, 4K 60, I can go into it there. I tend to stick at 1080-60 because that's my preferred action sport resolution. And of course coming across here you've now got playback, video or photo. As you can see, nothing very interesting there. I don't think you get playback with sound, and also because it's a waterproof camera and so the mic is hidden behind a membrane, you don't get particularly good audio from this, although it does have facility for an external mic. But obviously that would have to be plugged in, and while that's in, it's not being waterproof. But if you wanted good audio, you can get the optional external mic. Come out of that. I mentioned scrolling that way, or scrolling down. That pretty much covers the operation of it. Anything else I can show you here? Oh yes, as far as the menus go, well, as you can see, it mentions user microphone, gimbal control. You can use it with the SJCam gimbal. User interface, you've got two options. You've got classic or SJCam. SJCam is nearly all icons, which some people might prefer. But I'll come back to classic because I like classic. And of course you can change it back to default settings if you get fed up with whatever you've changed. Come back out of that. I think I've pretty much covered everything I can say about that. So let's take a quick look at the Wi-Fi app. I've scanned the QR code and already installed it on my phone. You can get free QR code scanners from Play Store or the iTunes equivalent. Scan the QR code, install it, turn on the Wi-Fi, scroll down, symbol goes red and the light on the front has gone green. Go into settings on your phone, SJ9 strike. Now I've already installed this and fired it up. That initial installation, the password is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, which of course you only do the first time. So we go into the app, touch camera, and I'm in. I did find there's a fair bit of lag, which is the difference between the movement and what you see on a screen. So I think it might be a bit tricky for FPV flying because you've got that delay there. Can you see that? That's one of the worst I've ever seen, to be honest. Might be my phone processor's not powerful enough, of course. But anyway, what does the app do? I think if you want to do live streaming, you do it through the app. You can obviously start recording. It's counting down there. The light's flashing on the camera. And range might be about 10 meters, but it does mean you could actually, if you wanted to record some wildlife or something, you could put this in a bird's nest or somewhere you wanted to catch something, wait till you saw the action happening and start. Change to camera mode. Take a still, I heard the click there. Change settings, pretty much the same menu that you've got through the cameras. Everything there. Oh, you can actually change storage location too, from phone to memory card, which is good to see. It's telling you battery level there. In photo mode, 12 megapixel, 4000 by 3000, 4x3. Go back to video. It's telling me 1080, 60 frames a second. You can change to video lapse, slow recording, video, fast photo, car mode, because undoubtedly it's got loop recording. So if you wanted to use it as a dash cam, you could do that. So pretty much all the stuff that you can do with the camera, you can do via the app. You've got gallery there too. So undoubtedly, if you wanted to, you can view these on your phone or download to your phone to see what you've got. But very thorough, useful app. And of course, to come out of it, either turn your Wi-Fi off or disconnect the Wi-Fi off. So that covers that. And of course, if you want to turn the camera off, press and hold for 3 seconds. So the important thing with any camera is the video quality. So I've got a few clips coming up. I'll compare the super smooth with the normal EIS of the SJ7 Star, and also take a look at the 4K and see how that compares with the SJ7 Star. Okay, so before we look at the test clips, a few words about the camera. I've had it for a few days. I thought the video quality was extremely good. At least as good as, if not better than, the SJ7 Star, which is my favourite of the SJCams. A couple of comments though. It's in a waterproof case, and so the audio is very, very quiet. It's actually worse than if it was in a separate waterproof case. You can get an external mic for it, which would solve that problem, so it's no major thing, but the audio is barely audible even if you've got it on maximum, which I had changed it to 10. Incidentally, I said there was no sound on playback. There is, but it's so quiet you can barely hear it. The other thing, very important to keep this really clean. I've got some lens cleaning fluid here that came with some spectacles that I bought. So I use that with some very soft tissue, or of course you want a lint-free cloth, because otherwise if you get that a bit smudged or smeary, you're going to get some refraction. But apart from that, I think great little camera. Touchscreen was really sensitive, easy to use, good menu. Seems solidly constructed. Well, it rattled around in that box for a few days coming from China and survived that. If you have found this useful, maybe you'd like to click on like and subscribe down there, keep my channel going. Loads of camera tests on my channel, plus paragliding, paramotoring, sailing, wildlife, all kinds of stuff to keep you amused on a wet afternoon. But that's all for now. Enjoy the test clips. Somebody in Australia, can't remember your name, sorry, said he really enjoyed the country lanes, and so there's some pretty dodgy motorbike clips of country lanes in Devon. Some of the clips were taken when it was fairly overcast in one of my local seaside towns, and then the sun came out and I sort of went for another motorbike ride and went down to the river. So all in all, a pretty good test of the camera. Plus, down at the end, there's a comparison of the EIS Super Smooth of the SJ9 Strike compared to the SJ7 Star. Plus there's some 4K clips. I will upload all the clips. Mostly they're 1080-60, but there are 4K clips in there at 30 and 60 frames a second. I'll upload that in 4K as a separate clip, because it's totally impractical to render this whole 35-minute clip as a 4K clip. It will be a huge file. But anyway, once again, thanks for watching. Hope I catch you again soon. Here we go. hell, man. Ain't bloody fast enough. Glad you weren't going any faster. Can't, man. Can't go backwards. Mate, I doubt I'd never use this road again, it's always like it. I don't know why I do it. Last time I came down here somebody nearly killed me, they came around the bend so fast. I'm half tempted to turn around. Anyway, thanks for that. It's a bastard, isn't it? Oh Christ, yeah, you're gonna have fun. Cheers. Favourite test shots because you've got some subject in the foreground and a nice lot of colour, and then when you swing around you've got the distant end of the pier plus the structure of the pier and the flags, so it's a good test of detail. to zoom in on the restaurant sign there and see how good the detail is as a test of the lens. Plus also the rigging. See how sharp you can see the rigging and the windows on the buildings over there. Tide's out, as you can see, and it's a bit windy, so there's going to be some wind noise here. But then I'll repeat this test at 4K and zoom in when I edit on TJ's restaurant. Let's see if you can read that sign. But this is at 4K 30 frames a second, and the SJ9 has got EIS at 4K, whereas the SJ7 Star does not have. But let's see, I shall zoom in, I'll hold it steady as I can, and I'll zoom in on TJ's restaurant, see how good the definition is on either of these cameras at 4K. See how good the definition is on either of these cameras at 4K. Swing around a bit, see what it's like with some movement. Just to really test the EIS, this is shaking it about, just to see how well the EIS works at 4K. Bear in mind it doesn't work at 60 frames a second in 4K. I think that's good enough test. SJ7 is still at 4K 30 because that's its maximum frame rate, and the SJ9 is at 4K 60 frames a second, but of course there's no EIS at that rate. So for a start, let's see what the definition's like over there, and let's try shaking it a bit, see what it's like with the movement. Anyway, this is normal movement. And a bit of gentle shaking about. Be interesting to see how much difference the 120 frames a second makes. But bear in mind, YouTube's going to ruin all this stuff anyway. To zoom in on the restaurant sign there and see how good the detail is as a test of the lens. Plus also the rigging. See how sharp you can see the rigging and the windows on the buildings over there. Tide's out, as you can see, and it's a bit windy, so there's going to be some wind noise here. Then I'll repeat this test at 4K and zoom in when I edit on TJ's restaurant. See if you can read that sign. But this is at 4K 30 frames a second, and the SJ9 has got EIS at 4K, whereas the SJ7 Star does not have. But let's see, I shall zoom in, I'll hold it steady as I can, and I'll zoom in on TJ's restaurant and see how good the definition is on either of these cameras at 4K. The definition is on either of these cameras at 4K. Swing around a bit. Okay. Swing around a bit. See what it's like with some movement. Just to really test the EIS, this is shaking it about. Just to see how well the EIS works at 4K. Bear in mind it doesn't work at 60 frames a second in 4K. Still at 4K 30 because that's its maximum frame rate, and the SJ9 is at 4K 60 frames a second, but of course there's no EIS at that rate. So for a start, let's see what the definition's like over there, and let's try shaking it a bit, see what it's like with the movement anyway. bear in mind YouTube's going to ruin all this stuff anyway. I like to zoom in on the restaurant sign there and see how good the detail is as a test of the lens. Plus also the rigging. See how sharp you can see the rigging and the windows on the buildings over there. Tide's out, as you can see, and it's a bit windy, so there's going to be some wind noise here. But then I'll repeat this test at 4K and zoom in when I edit on TJ's restaurant. Let's see if you can read that sign. But this is at 4K 30 frames a second, and the SJ9 has got EIS at 4K, whereas the SJ7 Star does not have. But let's see, I shall zoom in, I'll hold it steady as I can, and I'll zoom in on TJ's restaurant, see how good the definition is on either of these cameras at 4K. See how good the definition is on either of these cameras at 4K. Swing around a bit, see what it's like with some movement. Just to really test the EIS, this is shaking it about, just to see how well the EIS works at 4K. Bear in mind it doesn't work at 60 frames a second in 4K. I think that's good enough test. SJ7 is still at 4K 30 because that's its maximum frame rate, and the SJ9 is at 4K 60 frames a second, but of course there's no EIS at that rate. So for a start, let's see what the definition's like over there, and let's try shaking it a bit, see what it's like with the movement. Anyway, this is normal movement. And a bit of gentle shaking about. It'll be interesting to see how much difference the 120 frames a second makes. But bear in mind, YouTube's going to ruin all this stuff anyway.